All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. It's about 2:05. If anyone comes in, just remember to please silence your cell phones. This afternoon, we're going to be talking about the updates to St. Lucie County's Transportation Impact Fee Study, specifically the extraordinary circumstances we're looking to approve in order to adopt updated fees a year early. With us today, we have Negan Camp. She's a certified planner and our consultant with Banesh. They have done our most recent road impact fee update study. That was in 2022, and she will go over some portions of our updated study and also the extraordinary circumstances that are necessitating the need to exceed statutory phase-in limits. And without further ado, here is Negan.
Good afternoon, everyone. So transportation impact fees in St. Lucie County were last updated in 22, and at the time, per legislative requirements, the fees were kept at 50% increase from the current rates, and then in addition, they were discounted to 75% of that level. This study, the current study, the purpose of it is to reflect most current data, and because of these capping and lower adoption percentages, as well as cost increases since 22, the calculated fees indicate an increase more than 50%. So in 2021, House Bill 337 placed these limits on the fee increases, and it also included an exception clause that says if the jurisdiction conducts a study demonstrating extraordinary circumstances, holds 2 public workshops discussing these circumstances, and if the 2/3 of the governing body votes for that increase, the increases could be more than 50%. In addition, there were limits how often the fees can be updated, which was increased. That was every 4 years. So again, to be able to increase the fees sooner than 4 years, also the same exception clause applies. This year, Senate Bill 1080 just got signed, and it says effective January, it disallows use of extraordinary circumstances clause unless the jurisdiction increased its fees within the past 5 years. So under that, St. Lucie County qualifies. And then instead of 2/3 of the governing body, now it requires unanimous approval for the increase. Again, this becomes effective in January. Extraordinary circumstances, the term is not defined in the statutes, so jurisdictions that use this clause show that they are experiencing high growth levels, high permitting levels, their fees are outdated or artificially low due to prior policies, they are experiencing higher cost levels, and also they have needs, a list of projects that need this additional funding. So the calculated fees as a result of this current study indicate pretty significant increase. So we have 2 tier fees that we are developing, one in the urban service, within the urban service boundary, and the other one is outside of it. But either way, the fees are increasing more than clearly more than 50%. So it does require use of this clause, as well as the fact that it hasn't been 4 years since the last study was adopted. So when we look at St. Lucie County, it ranks 20th in population out of the 67 Florida counties, so it's on the larger side. It's 7th in the projected growth rate. It's a high growth county, ranking 7th in the projected growth rate, 14 in terms of absolute growth, how many people that would be added, and 13 in terms of the residential permitting. So for example, permitting increased from 300 permits in 2011 to almost 5,000 permits in 2024. So again, this chart is showing the residential permitting trends, and you can kind of see that the county experienced the peak during the 04, 05, 06 boom, and then we had the Great Recession, permitting dropped, and then after the Great Recession, it started to increase, and the increase became more significant after the pandemic. So it's reached its almost like second highest levels since the 04, 05 boom. During the same time, since the 2017 study, there has been significant cost increases. So different indices estimate those increases differently, but that range is anywhere from 50% using a national index to all the way to 140% using more Florida measures. And this chart shows that transportation cost increases over time. And you can see, again, we had that high cost increases during the 05-06 boom, and then we had the recession. So 2017 study was looking backwards to a period that we were just getting out of the recession. And then during the 22 update, we've seen more cost increases compared to 2017 period, but we hadn't hit the pandemic levels yet. And then after 22, or like now, when we are doing this study, we are seeing significant increases since the pandemic as well. Basically, the first box, the red box, is showing the current rates. The first column is current adopted rates at a discount, and then the calculated rates, and you see that significant increase. Yellow box, the 22 numbers show what the 22 study calculated at the time. They were not adopted at that rate. They were adopted at a discount. But if they were adopted at 100%, the increase that we are experiencing would have been about 40 to 50%. It would have been much more reasonable. So part of the reason for this large increase is the fact that fees were adopted at a reduction at the time. And then the last box shows if we are to adopt the fees again at 50% limit, then we will be discounting them anywhere from 30% to 70% compared to the cost of growth. In addition, the county has a list of projects that need to be funded, that they are either unfunded completely or only partially funded. They amount to about $285 million. This is not necessarily everything they need, but this is what they identified as more urgent needs. When we look at the long-range transportation plan estimates, even after all the projects that are built, that are in the cost feasible plan, and they are built, there's a shortfall in terms of available capacity. So basically, about 20% of all roads will continue to be over capacity countywide.
What was that percentage?
20%
Over capacity.
over capacity.
That's the calculation.
Yes. In terms of revenues, current collections generate about $10 million per year. So if the fees were adopted at their full levels, they could generate anywhere from 2 or 3 times of that, like $19 million to $28 million, depending on the permitting levels. So over a 5-year period, that would be about $94 million to $140 million, which would help with that list of projects. So in terms of next steps, tonight, both the full study and these extraordinary circumstances will be presented to PNZ. And then August 19 has the second workshop dedicated to extraordinary circumstances and also the first hearing of the study. And then September 2nd is the adoption hearing. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Oh, wait, that's right.
My name is Anna Suarez. I'm a member of the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Committee of the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. I'm a member for St. Lucie, one of the 5 members. And my concern is there is a project which Peter Tesh, of the president of the Economic Development Department of St. Lucie County, has been speaking about, which is the Kings Highway Job Corridor project. And apparently there are 3 warehouses that are already, ground has been broken on this for 3 warehouses going on. This is a 7.5 mile stretch of Kings Highway, State Road, I believe it is State Road 713. And My concern is, I notice you do have a section there, the millage rate for industrial, and warehouses would be light industrial, and you know the amount of traffic you would get, semi-trailers. You're talking about semi-trailers on basically what is now a 2-lane highway for a very long stretch through St. Lucie County, and then it continues on through Indian River County. But my concern is, and the residents I've talked to, one of the big concerns is the fact that obviously you need some road improvement. I believe there is some construction going on right now at the on I-95, the exit to Orange onto Kings Highway. There is some construction there, and that is where one of the warehouses is going. I don't know where the others are going, but they're somewhere along that corridor. And my concern is, I see there is a millage rate specifically for light industrial, but do you take into account because my concern in general is regarding as far as taxpayers in the area and St. Lucie taxpayers. Usually when you plan a project of that scale, covering 7.5 miles of a major road in a county, any planning project would also involve residential projects and commercial. You're a planner, so you know what I'm talking about. Usually there's a residential component, there's a commercial component, as well as a possibly a light industrial or even an industrial component. This project has, apparently they have decided to go ahead with just light industrial and not involving any kind of residential component or commercial component. So my concern is, down the line, you don't want the taxpayers to be hit with a special assessment for things like huge road improvements. I would imagine you would need to increase the size of Kings Highway to 4 lanes rather than 2 lanes if you're going to have semi-trailers going down, up and down. And the reason they wanted that location is you have easy access to not only 95 but the turnpike. So these warehouses are probably going to be somewhere in that range. And right now you do have a couple of housing developments there existing, and you have farms, and you have some commercial locations around the intersections. But obviously this is going to be a huge expense. And some of these warehouses, we're talking about thousands of square feet to, if you're talking about an Amazon warehouse, and I don't know who is these warehouses are intended for, but going to millions of square feet. So we're talking about huge establishments and many semi-trailers. So I'm wondering if this particular project is being taken into account in terms of the rates and the millage rates and in terms of planning.
So the impact fees themselves are an average, countywide average, but those would be addressed through their traffic reviews individually. I'm not familiar with it, but maybe.
Thank you. That roadway was long ago performed a project development and environmental study. It's a PD&E study that looks at the long-range forecasted needs based on land use, zoning, proposed development, local background growth, and it contemplates all the various layers of impact for everything from resources that might be cultural, historical, looking at what might be needed from right-of-way, and it generates a need, a purpose and need. And long ago when that PD&E study was completed, it necessitated and it resulted in a 4-lane project from the limits of Indrio Road all the way south to where Kings Highway terminates at the Florida Turnpike. And DOT has had that in their long-range plan. It has been supported by our local transportation planning organization, and DOT is moving ahead with phased construction because it is such an expensive project. They've been working from south to north, and they are moving ahead with construction funding for segments of that roadway, but they do plan to ultimately 4-lane that entire roadway. But they're working from, as I said, south to north, so the next segment will be from the I-95 overpass to just south of Angle Road. That's where they plan to do the next 4-laning construction. And then as funding becomes available, they will do the necessary design, acquire the pond sites, and then do the construction.
So what you're saying is that the taxpayers, the residents of St. Lucie County won't be on the hook for the the millions of dollars that these are going to cost, this road improvements are going to cost. Is that correct?
The state is funded through state revenue, so it is not something that directly comes out of the county's taxpayers' roll. No, ma'am.
All right, so as far as then the millage rate that is paid, I guess annually, is that the millage rate that we're talking about here? Increase, it's not?
No, Negan can clarify that.
Yeah, this impact fees are a one-time charge to new development at the time of building permit or CO. So if somebody is building a new home, when they are pulling their permit, they would make this one-time payment, and that's it. So it's not a tax on the existing population. It's just new construction.
All right, so these warehouses would have to pay an impact fee?
Yes.
And has that been already, I mean, apparently they have started to break ground, so has it already been arranged, they're aware that they're paying it, or is this?
Yes. I mean, I'm sure they paid it. If they're already broke ground, they already paid it. Yeah, he said.
And what actually goes for then the increased cost? I mean, you have traffic issues, you have various other issues that, apart from maintenance and so forth. All this is not something that's going to be borne by the taxpayers then?
So because this is a state road, it will not be, but again, impact fees are only for the initial constructions. They cannot be used for resurfacing, rehab, just for the initial construction of the roads. So those type of expenses, resurfacing, maintenance, comes from either other sources. It could be state, it could be local fuel taxes or other revenue sources.
All right, but it would not be something that would lead to a special assessment, for example?
Doesn't sound like it because it's a state project, so yeah, no.
Because it's a state project. All right, thank you very much.
Other questions? Mary?
Not really a question, but a comment. Good afternoon, Mary Savage Dunham for the City of Port St. Lucie. I don't have any specific comments today at this time, but I did want to note for the record that we received notification of this workshop only yesterday. So we didn't have time to review the documentation without any prior notice. So we did download the information from the website yesterday, and we do plan to provide any comments if we have them once our internal review is completed, probably at or prior to your second hearing. So we do appreciate your ongoing collaboration, and we do appreciate the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Hi, Deb Frazier with the Treasure Coast Builders Association. So one of the questions I have is, when you were doing this, did you take into effect what's happening in the market across the country, but especially in Florida, with the downturn in home sales and developments?
Again, impact fees take the local investment the community made into an infrastructure type, say transportation, and calculate what the value of the infrastructure new growth is consuming. So that's all it does. It does not get into any kind of policy in terms of.
But the impact fees are actually paid by anyone building the new construction. So the question is, when you're given these estimates of how much money it's going to actually bring to the county, have you taken in effect that the growth and the housing market in this area particularly has slowed down considerably?
So
if you're basing it on an average for the past 2 or 3 years, you're going to be way off in your dollar amounts.
Okay. So
by the way, also, Mary, I found out about this yesterday, so was not able to get any of my builders or my development people here today, but moving forward, we will also do that.
right, we use a range of 4,000 to 6,000 permits. So when you look at it, 4,000 is more like 2018, 2019, 2020 levels, and 6,000 is after the pandemic. So that's the range. Again, if the permitting drops, then it would be less, and hopefully then that means needs are a little bit more moderated if there's not as much growth. But again, if the permitting increases, then it's more.
Did you also figure this as well? And I'm sorry, I missed the very, very beginning. But St. Port St. Lucie themselves are looking at raising their mobility and impact fees, and they are figuring it by square footage of the home. Did you do that calculation as well?
The single-family home for the county is tiered, so it has size categories. So
Okay.
I haven't seen Port St. Lucie's study yet.
Did you I'm sorry, did you have that information on a slide? I just got
No,
it.
this
Oh.
is just deals with the extraordinary circumstances.
Okay.
So when we presented the full report,
And my
then you'll be
understanding
able
as
to
well
see.
is the law actually goes into effect October 1st, not January 1.
the bill becomes effective October 1st, but that clause itself becomes effective January 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. And I did just want to clarify that this is the first of 2 public workshops to discuss the extraordinary circumstances. The notification was put on our website over a week ago. It was also included in our calendar on our website. Yesterday's email was simply a reminder to stakeholders. So everybody will have another opportunity to comment. Again, tonight is the full presentation in front of our Planning and Zoning Commission. So if you're interested in all of the rate structures and how it's broken down by square foot, please join us tonight. It'll be shortly after 6 p.m.